Hey, Kenny, it's Kenny. This is entry number 13, and I'm here with Austin Harmon.
Hey.
What's up, dude? Or what your wrestling name? Guy Cool?
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah. That's been your name since you started. You haven't went through changes, have you?
No, they have changed my name a few times.
Oh, really?
Let me take my gum out of my mouth here. Yeah, when you do TV, you're at the whim to whatever they want you to do.
Oh, okay.
So the first time they actually did use my real name, and that was kind of the point of changing my name and making a different character, I felt.
Right.
So I asked them if they could change it back and or do something different with it. Eventually, they called me Guy Tweakasetti, which was a fun character change.
Guy Tweakasetti?
Tweakasetti, like Italian, but they focused on the tweak part, and I was basically similar to Tweak from South Park in
Okay. I can
spasmodic.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that vibe. Are you like a South Park fan?
Yeah, of course. You know, we all were, right, growing up.
Yeah, I'm a huge South Park fan. I went to the concert, the 25th anniversary concert in Colorado, last summer, not this past summer, but the summer before with my girlfriend. And then I have, again, like we were talking about before this, where I'm trying to get the podcasting going. I actually have everything at home, including the big cardboard cutouts of the four boys and Randy that I want to use to start a podcast, because there is no real South Park rewatch podcast where they just kind of go through the episode, it's somebody that's going through the episodes. A lot of times it's people from the show, but then there's a ton of shows where it's just random people that are fans that do that, and there isn't one for South Park. And so me and my girlfriend are such big fans. I'm trying to do that, but it's such a planned thing, because you see how this is. This was I got here an hour ago, set all this stuff up, and then you come in and we're off to the races talking about wrestling in South Park. But that one's one where you have to watch it and plan, you have to go over the episode, be okay, so the boys are standing at the bus stop. This is their first time that we meet them doing this, and oh, this joke was hilarious. You know what I mean? You got to go through it, so it's much more preparation. But I hope to get that started next year, because I love South Park so much. But
that'll be fun. I've always wanted to do a reaction video, and I like watching those too.
Yeah, and I just figured South Park's such a big thing that actually we already have the name. The name would be Man Bear Podcast.
Okay, nice.
So, a way to pay homage to the show, obviously. But how quickly? Because I feel I wonder how quickly you came up on my radar. Because that's a weird thing. Because I'm a comic. You're a wrestler. We actually went to high school together. This is just how we originally know each other. And
middle school too.
I'm wondering when we came on each other's radars for doing because I don't remember seeing another name other than Guy Cool. So I'm wondering how long it took me to. I remember you starting. Did you go to a wrestling school?
Yeah, I went to a school. I'm really glad the one I picked. It's called Santino Bros Wrestling Academy, with their reputation. Some of their guys are in WWE and AEW, right, stuff like that. So we've got a good reputation of putting out good guys, and so that I have that stamp of approval where I can use that to. It's like having a good college degree in the wrestling world, if you will.
How long and when did you start wrestling?
I started training September 2014. I was 28.
Okay, so that's what it was. Is I was doing jiu-jitsu heavily, and I remember I had been doing jiu-jitsu basically full time then for a year, and then I remember seeing you being I'm gonna dive into this thing I've always wanted to do and try it, and be oh cool, I feel I'm doing that, because wrestling or jiu-jitsu was my comedy before comedy, I guess I would say, but I was never athletically inclined, so I just trained a ton of jiu-jitsu, got good technique wise, but I was never a good competitor. I wasn't ever going to be an adult, because adult is the 18 to 30, and that's the age bracket where even the really good 30-something-year-olds are going and competing in adult, and that's how you show I'm an adult world champion, or I've won adult Pan Ams, and I just wasn't a great competitor. Proficient in technique, can pick up the technique, can do it, can be good in class and everything, but I just, competing wise, I don't know what it was. I wasn't super great, but I wanted to. I was on the path of I wanted to get my black belt, which I still am, still working on it, and I wanted to open a school. And then I ended up having to stop training for a year and a half, because I was for work. Basically, I was growing weed down in San Diego, And when I came back, I was like, all right, I can either afford to pay for a jiu-jitsu membership, or I can afford to drive around and try out this comedy thing. And then once I tried comedy, it's like it's the only thing I've ever been like good at. Like I started out doing it and I had like some type of like inclination.
Came natural to you.
Yeah, to do it. But I definitely remember training, I would go at that time, 2014, I would go every couple weeks and trade with Brad. Because when he had his gym still, and so I would go down, I would trade with him.
Love you, Brad.
Yeah, I remember seeing you posting that you were going to school, just based on the nod of like, because you see everybody on social media and the nod of being like, oh yeah, this guy's also doing like a thing that he really wants to do. So I think that's sick, and everybody that gets to do that is pretty lucky to at least like go try out those things that they want, because so many people get stuck, I feel like, in the monotonous of life, or just things they have to do and they don't have the time or funds or whatever it is to go do that. How with wrestling, how far have you come through wrestling? Because I'm constantly doing that with comedy, where even driving over here today, I was thinking about how like I'm kind of about to go on this tour over the next like 6 months, going out once or twice a month to different cities and everything, and how happy I am to do that, but how unfortunately unsatisfied I am, in the sense of like, oh, this is just like the beginning. I have to do more and go farther and all that stuff. Like when 2 years ago, if you told me I was doing this, I'd be like, yeah, I'll just be happy. I'll just be happy doing this. So how far have you come in wrestling?
I love that you talked about that, because in wrestling, entertainment, music, whatever you want to, entertainment period, what we're doing, it's really hard not to compare yourself to others. And I think the first podcast I did was like my rookie year, and I had said, I'm glad I said it because I'm living it. I said, if I'm still just working the same shows 5-10 years from now, I should be so lucky, because I'm still living my dream. Like, I had the career, I wasn't happy. I was driving home every day, just going to work and watching Netflix, and had a girlfriend, and I still wasn't happy, man, and I felt unfulfilled. And so I think anyone that takes the chance to do something they love, that's to be commended, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, even just trying, like even the students, when they find out day one, this isn't for me, I think that's a win still. You tried it, and you got to fall in love with it even more, and you have a deeper appreciation for it now. So I just try to always keep that in mind, that regardless of how far I do or don't go, that I do this because I love it. I never did it for the money. I made that mistake with music. Like when you said my jiu-jitsu was your comedy before comedy, that was my wrestling before wrestling was music. I tried to do the band thing, couldn't keep one together, and then I was like, I can show up to wrestling practice myself. So that's how that got started. And so to answer your question, I've made it as far as I would like to, as far as I could go tell my 5-year-old self, dude, you're on television. I work for United Wrestling Network. Thank you, Dave Marquez, and everyone there, Dan Hill, Aaron Stevens, so many people who have given me chances to be on television. My 5th match ever, or 6th match ever, was on television. And it was
sick, man.
Terrifying. And they gave me a chance, and I didn't suck, so they brought me back, and years later now I'm at the Irvine Improv, which is cool. Cause
that's what I was gonna say. Is you're doing both of us have done the Irvine Improv.
Yeah, I love that. I love that venue.
which is a funny thing they do. Are they still doing those? Do they do them like monthly or?
Yeah, they do them. They were doing them every month. They had a little bit of a hiatus for the last few months, but they're coming back December 17th here at Long Beach, actually, not too far from where I'm at.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. So to be able to be on TV, I had that footage for the rest of my life, wrestling with guys that I watched on TV. Some of them I've been fortunate to be in the ring with, like Aaron Stevens and stuff. So it's been really cool to be able to like look at this footage, a professional, production, not just me and some veteran hall and my friend filming it. I have tons of that footage, but that's what really, is to me, like I've made it in that sense. I'm on TV because there's guys that have been wrestling 20 years on the indie circuit that have never been on this television program, and that's their goal before they retire, just to make it on their one time. And here I am, a regular, so I'm so fortunate for that.
Congrats.
Thanks.
That's really sick. And then I know you were wrestling. Did you do tag team as well?
Yeah.
You were doing tag team, and then you were doing like some managing as well. I saw that.
Yeah, so they made me a manager, and then we called it the free bird rule. If you guys know that, it's like an old wrestling. There's like 3 of them, but there's a tag team. There's only 2, so you never know which 2 of the 3 will be in there.
Oh, okay. So it's one of them acts as you guys kind of rotate acting as manager.
I was the main manager, but then unfortunately one of the guys got injured, so I stepped in because I'm a competent wrestler. Yeah. So I mean, for me, I got the opportunity due to an unfortunate circumstance, but I did my job, and because I'm probably the only one of the few managers I'll say who's a wrestler as well. So I was able to step in and just fill the spot. So that was cool.
That's really awesome. And then those small shows, I've been to one back in 10 or more years ago. I went to because I have a group of friends actually I haven't seen in a while, but they're into indie wrestling. In fact,
it's punk rock. It's so fun.
Did you ever meet in your days a guy who was an announcer? His name was Angelo Trinidad.
Yes.
He ended up moving. He moved to Fort Worth recently, like a year ago or something. I remember I knew Angelo because he was the manager of a GameStop and really good friends with a guy that I worked at PetSmart with, who was super into our Venn diagram overlapped over UFC. We would go watch all the early UFCs together. I don't know if you remember the National Sports Bar and Grill. Mm-hmm. They would cover their pool tables and have UFC there. And so through this friend, I met Angelo, and then he was the manager of my local GameStop over in the Cerritos Mall area by where Hometown Buffet used to be. And that's how I know those guys. And then I remember I went to one before Angelo was even actually part of before he became the ring announcer for any of those. And it is fun. It's fun, and you can see it's really awesome, especially compared to something like WWE where you're seeing that on TV, and as great as it is. And I was a huge fan, during The Rock's ascension. I remember The Rock and the Nation of Domination, and then when he became The Rock, and I was went wild, the people's elbow. I'm always been trying to do the people's eye or the eyebrow, all of that shit. But those shows, I could see how it's addicting, and how cool it must be how cool it is for kids, because there's kids that are just you suck straight to the guy's face, and then the guy's yelling at a kid this close, and the kid's kind of scared but having a good time. And then I even in this one I watched, they let a kid hit one of the wrestlers. He brought him up and he's you hit him, and the funny part is the kid even pulled the punch. A little kid, he knew I'm not really gonna hit this guy in the head as hard as I can, but it was just everybody kind of in on it. And then it's just watching that wrestling 5 feet from you. It's it kind of spoiled it in the sense of I can't imagine unless I was going to WrestleMania or something, just being in an arena far away is kind of that's not nearly as good as you're right there, and they're just flying through the air, seeing some of this stuff.
And similar to comedy, it's great. I've seen you at the Rec Room here killing it, by the way. And even if you're at the very back seat, which is actually where I was, the back row, you're still really close. It's an intimate feel, and versus a big stadium comedy show, you're not going to feel that connection to the comic, and that's the beauty of independent wrestling. You're right there. When we chop each other, you get to feel that right there.
You feel
you see the ring, give, the boards give because of our body weight hitting it, know. And so that's and where else tell me where else in life can you go give someone the finger to their face, tell them, like you said, you suck, whatever, get your anger out for the day, and then there's no ramifications for it. In regular life, you do that anywhere else, there's something's gonna go wrong, you know what I mean? So it's a beautiful thing. They get to go, it's therapy, I think, for the wrestlers and for the fans, and we all come together, and it's this cool passion thing we all have, just like comedy. We all like to laugh, and
of course
you get to make them laugh, we get to laugh, everyone leaves happy. It's this beautiful thing.
Entertainment and sports entertainment,
they do go hand in hand. And remember we brought up having you do a commentary someday for a show. They do that where they'll have a live mic and with over the loudspeaker, so the audience can hear it and laugh along, so it's not just whoever's watching at home,
right?
And I really feel it adds to the show when it's done right, and it has been done wrong, where it's about the comic maybe making fun of the wrestlers a little too much, and not
I could definitely see that, where it's in service of the show, not in service of the individual, or just in service of getting the joke off, or even I could just see a comic going heavy on just making a ton of like gay jokes for things that are going on. But there's a funny ass. I saw this like, I think it was in Mexico. This wrestler, like I should have fucking had it ready and pulled this up. It's just a dude holding another guy, and then he's got him in like by the like, so that he's like got his hands behind his back, and he's swinging his head into the other guy's dick. Like, he's just swinging him into it, and it's one of the, like, I don't know. There's so much. It's funny because I feel like if you like wrestling is one of those. I wouldn't say it's homophobic by any means, but there's definitely like a, hey, like, don't fucking, I'm not gay, fool. Like, but they do some hilariously gay stuff like that.
Yeah, like I personally do a move where I twist the guy's nipple, and he's like, stuff like that. Or if like I try to like grab his arm and he doesn't go, I'll like look around, I'll lick my hand, I'll spank their butt, and then they open their arm, and then I can grab it. So I personally, my character is pretty, I think, different and comical in that way, and that's the fun thing about wrestling too. It doesn't. I don't think it should always be serious. It's like a circus. There's something for everyone. There is that match that's hardcore going as far as like wrestling moves, bing, boom, boom, high flying, all that stuff. The two big heavyweights, hoss fights. There's, the big versus small, all kinds of different stories you can tell. And that's what I really like about it, is it's a storytelling platform. And that's what I think is being lost in the art of professional wrestling today, is it's based on moves. It's Dan Johnson versus Timmy Thompson. They're both from Ohio and one's from Wisconsin. They're going to go wrestle for the championship. And, well, who do I give a shit about? I don't give a shit about either of these guys. And I think the characters are missing today. And that's what I just try to be what I like about wrestling and what I miss about wrestling. Because we grew up, like you said, with The Rock and all these guys. The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker. Now it's, John McGillicuddy and, all this stuff. And I'm just like,
When's the last time I mean, obviously you being a wrestler, I'm sure you kind of go watch some of the old stuff, but when's the last time you watched like a promo from The Rock? Those still hold up. Like today, if you put on like
they come up on Instagram and stuff,
promo and stuff, like they all, like I'll stop and watch it every time. I usually send them to my dad, and they still hold up so well.
They do, yeah. Like, they're still very entertaining.
The Rock was really was so funny, and for everything that, like, I mean, congratulations to him. Obviously, give him his like flowers and like all that stuff, like of everything he's been able to accomplish. But it's funny because I don't know if you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast at all.
Yes.
But The Rock was on the podcast, and I would say that was actually the disappointing thing to me, was hearing his, because I listened to it yesterday, and it's the whole time it got a little bit better towards the end. He started to open up, but he's definitely like so corporate. Like, he's so corporate and so don't say like the wrong thing now, or give maybe even his real opinion on something, because it's all just like, keep everything in front of me, stay corporate. And like the podcast was a lot of him. It was almost like watching him do an interview on NBC, because he would like
wasn't the real him.
He would reiterate the question. He'd be like, I'm so glad that you asked that, and I want to know like how this is for you too. And then it was like he deflected a lot, and it was, I guess I don't know what I expected. I think it's hard because Rogan's had a lot of wrestlers on recently. Like, he's had Hulk Hogan on, he's had Ric Flair, he had Jake the Snake a while back, and those guys are all, I mean, especially like all those guys were very like open and everything. I mean, but obviously those guys don't have nearly as much to lose, in the 2020s as like The Rock does. But it's just like, it's kind of a bummer, because it's like just remembering him being so wild and so real, you know what I mean? To be like, you have to kind of be like this to be what you are now.
Yeah, and that's what I hate about this day and age, or this retroactive cancel culture BS. It's like, I've seen stuff where like it's The Rock just cutting a promo, and they're like, "Oh, look how inappropriate this is. He's making a Chinese accent or something." It's like, okay, like, but at the time, no one was creating a fuss. I mean,
times have changed, and I mean, a lot of us. Me personally, for sure. I mean, part of the development as a human was around all of this like racial humor and stuff like that, and that's why it doesn't go away. And that's one of the reasons, I mean, to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons why we don't live forever, because it's like we're constantly update. It's like we're the hardware, and the software is constantly updating, and we can only update so far. That's why your grandpa still calls them colored people. You know, not specifically your grandpa, but the grandpas out there that do, is because the software is old, and you can only update the software so much. And we're in the same boat, where it's like, for me, a lot of those things I'm like, yeah, I can't get mad or even really buy into like the cancel culture like stuff at all. I think it only matters if you are somebody like as big as The Rock. Like, you know what I mean? Look at Hulk Hogan. I mean, Hulk Hogan has there's like a video or audio of him saying like the N-word and everything. And Hulk is also, he's not mainstream in the spotlight making millions of dollars still off of like this mainstream NBC, ABC, Fox, whatever it is stuff. So it's like that coming out, it's like people could be mad at him or whatever, but it's like you can only cancel the people that are actually huge. You know what I mean?
Yes, I mean, I agree to an extent, because I've seen a lot of people get canceled even on, you know, the indie circuit, you know, whatever, and for justifiable reasons, I'll say, for sure. So, you know, I mean, there are reasons, yes, that someone shouldn't be given, I think, a platform, especially live in front of, you know, where kids go and stuff like that, if they're committing domestic violence, stuff like that. Yeah. But for like, having said, you know, for like, you know, like for that example, I said like The Rock did a Chinese accent because whatever, I don't know the circumstances at the time, but they just take that clip and then they run it next to like John Cena actually, you know, doing Chinese, and like, oh, look how more refined the wrestlers are nowadays. It's like, okay, like that's a weird, like you can take any, you know, two clips and put them against each other and say one's worse than the other nowadays. And like, I like what Dave Chappelle said, and that's why I respect comedians so much. And what you guys do is because you guys are like the last of the people who are able to just, like, that's what comedians are supposed to be able to do, is take what's going on and make us all laugh about it. And it's a healing thing, you know, and it really is. And so, like I said, it's therapeutic. And if they don't have the freedom to do that, then that's, I think, an approach on the free speech and all that, you know. And so, like, but I understand, you know, intent and all that, but I mean, if the intent is to make people laugh, like Kramer yelling the N-word was there's no way to spin that. That's just a guy losing it, you know what I mean, and being racist. But if, you know, people want to talk about the funny differences between different races, we should be able to do that and laugh and not go, hey, I do that. Like, I think it's funny. Like George Lopez said, white people name their kids after cities: Dallas, Phoenix, Austin. And I'm like, that's me. And I was happy that I got to get made fun of, and you know what I mean? Like, and I related. I didn't like, hey, my name's Austin here. You know?
I would say that's actually one of the weirdest things doing comedy is watching how people will be happy and laughing until it's about them, which is like the most odd thing. That's something that's very odd to me, and I feel like that's where at least the attempt at cancel culture, and what I mean by I mean getting canceled for those things, like getting canceled for something like, you know, The Rock making fun of Asian people, 20 years ago, or even Hulk Hogan using the N-word. I mean canceling people for those things, obviously, like domestic violence, sexual assault of any kind, stuff like that. That's like very black and white and very easy to be like, yeah, you shouldn't maybe be someone with like a platform, you know what I mean, or something influential if you're doing those things. I think it comes down to those, political beliefs. I mean, so many people just get like so many people don't want to even like talk to people that are of another political belief or don't agree with them. I think that stuff is all
bubble people,
all mostly a product of social media, and it mostly exists on social media.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because in person, that's usually what everybody talks. Everybody usually has that same line for the most part of, yeah, if you're actually assaulting somebody, domestic violence, sexual assault, anything like that, like, yeah, that's a hard line. But then everything else is like a gray area. Like, you know what I mean? And it just depends, like you said, like it depends on the intent of, you know, what people are trying to do. And that's why, you know, like I said, for me, I don't really worry about it. I get a few, you know, things, like I said, retarded on Like there's a clip on YouTube where I ask a guy, I was like, you must be drunk, otherwise you're retarded. And then somebody was like, I've been watching your videos and I can't believe you would say that and blah, like all this stuff. And then the problem is a lot of people, because I'm black, whenever they bring that up, they automatically they try to relate it to me like I'm not going to understand by bringing up me being black. And I'm like, well, you can't use that because I have a joke where I say the N-word hard R. So it's like you can't say that I would never say that. So because that's usually what they'll be like, you would never say that, or like never be okay with someone saying that. And I was like, it's comedy. Like I don't get mad at that kind of stuff. There are some times where I go, huh, like, and it's usually not with that. It's usually with the gay N-word is the one that most people don't want to say the N-word. So many people don't want to give up that word. And I was just in Austin, and there were a lot of comics saying that word. And there's nothing wrong with saying it. I don't have a joke where I say it because I don't think there's a joke. There's no joke that I have that's funny enough for the right to say it. Even the joke that I have with the N-word in it it's a funny joke. Like I can't just say it. Nobody can. I mean, even if it's a black person, if you're not being funny and you're saying that, I know plenty of black people that have jokes with the N-word in it, obviously, like with a hard R, and those are funny jokes. Even if their joke wasn't funny, you'd kind of be like, oh, that's not.
Like shock.
Yeah, it's like shocking. And that's what everything.
Or they're going for the shock value of it or something.
In Austin, when people were being, like, it was a thing where, like, at some point I was like, oh, this is kind of just homophobic. Like, it's not necessarily, it's like, it's not funny. Or it was just calling people in the audience that. It was like, one of them was like, I won't like throw anybody under the bus by name, but there's like a fairly popular comedian, you know what I mean, that he, at Joe Rogan's club, literally his joke is like, your phones are locked up now. What? Because they do those yonder bags where everybody's phones are locked up. He's like, oh, phones are locked up. You guys, I can say anything. This can be wild. Like, oh, you're a, like, you know what I mean? Just to an audience member. And it's like, well, that's not really like a funny joke. That is just actually homophobic. But also, it's a much different. Like, I hadn't been like to the South in a while, probably like 15 years. And so it was like, oh yeah, it is different. It's different here. The people were into it, and I won't go as far. I'm not going to, go as far to be like everybody's homophobic and everybody. It's like it's a different sense of humor, and it was something I would say that was like, it took me a while to come around. When I first started doing comedy of all things is the thing that made me stop saying that word, because of just being around comedy and people being like, yeah, you can't just say it. And be like, we can say anything. We can say anything we want. I don't want to stop saying that. And it's just, after a while, if enough people are like, hey, dude, that's a hurtful word, you got to be like, all right, I guess. I've now changed my stance on that. But it was wild in Austin, hearing that. I guess for you guys, it's not, you don't really have to do, it's not really people doing that much of that stuff anymore. People are like steering more clear.
Yeah, I don't think
like
there's
race of more like race play.
Yeah, like people get canceled nowadays for like saying anything racial on like posting about it. Yeah, like stuff like that. Like if you make it a bucket of chicken joke or something, now you'll get canceled for sure. Or
and that was like
fired.
a huge. That
happened recently.
Do you remember when Degeneration X just dressed up?
Yes.
As the Nation of Domination and stuff. And that was really funny. Like, it wasn't, I mean, I didn't view that as, same thing with The Rock and it doing like the Asian accent. I mean, The Rock basically did special needs accent too all the time. Like, all the time. Like, it was a thing where he would make me like, making fun of people, but it was never, I don't know. It was making fun of the person, not making fun of the people.
Yeah, he wasn't like, like making fun of an actual, handicapped person. He was just like doing that kind of behavior. But I mean, and that's the thing is, you can take anything and view it in a specific context. And that's what I liked about this recent comedy special I saw. It's called Cheeseburger. I forget the dang guy's name, but his comedy is on Netflix. And he says, I just give you the meat and the bun. You dress it up. You make the cheeseburger how it tastes. You know what I mean? And like if he said something like, oh, like my best friend's favorite,
Andrew Santino.
Yeah. So basically he was just saying that, like, and I was thinking if I ever did do comedy, I would like to have a lot of jokes that were like that, where it's like I say something and then people go, oh, I'm like, I didn't say it was this kind of a person. You all assumed it was,
Right.
And that's the thing, like, and that's where people all assume something because of their own thing, but then they go, how dare you? And they assume that person meant that when it didn't, or maybe it was something different, and
Yeah.
that's just the weird age of spin. And like I said, Dave Chappelle said it's not about right or wrong. It's about less, or which is worse. You know what I mean? And that's when people want to go, well, it's okay for this person because that person did something worse, so they can go ahead and go back. It's like, again, like you said, there's either black and white, and there are some gray areas. And I think with like comedy, really, it shouldn't be, as long as the intent is to make someone laugh, like whether it does or doesn't, if the intent's there, like, I don't think there's anything that's untouchable. Like they say you can't joke about rape, and like Jim Jeffries does a joke about it in one of his specials, and everyone's laughing, and he's like, and I just proved it right now that I did it. And I think, and it was,
well, it's all again well thought out, and things that are well thought out and like actually are a joke, and you come at it from a different angle. A lot of the things where they're like, you can't talk about this, it's more that it's just been draped across already, like that just so many people talk about, because it's the taboo subjects are ones that a lot of comics try to tackle. So like right now, Israel and Palestine, there's so many comics on every level, from open mic to comics, they're trying to find their spin on it, because if you can because the person who does get the right spin on it, the right joke, like that's something that's gonna blow up and everything. I personally find myself like I don't really want to do that. Like I don't really talk about those things. To be honest with you, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Is I just talk about fucking dicks a lot. Like I talk about like sex and dicks and bullshit. You know what I mean? And I have other little things. I talk about my relationship with my girlfriend and stuff. But I always think of it as, I think of it when I'm going to go to Tulsa, and most of the people that are going to see me in Tulsa, I'm going to do 7 shows. They're not going to know much of who I am. So I feel like, especially the first and second, probably even third time I'm going to these cities, and people are kind of getting to know me in those scenes, as like from the audience perspective, is I'm like showing you who I am. Like I'm so going in and automatically, talking about like just my opinions on like just going in and being like, I'm going to talk about abortion, about Israel and Palestine, about race relations, and, the police. If I'm going to talk about all these things, it's like you don't even know who I am or know much about me. So like, why do you even want to hear what I have to say about it? Like mainly that's why I think, a lot of the comics that I watch, like the Dave Chappelle's, the Joe Rogans, they're going to tackle those things, and people already want to know their take on it. Like people will sit back and be like, I want to know what Dave Chappelle has to say about Israel and Palestine. I mean, that's why during the pandemic, he literally released that special that was called like 8 minutes and 22 seconds, or I probably got the time wrong completely, but it was the amount of time that cop had their like foot or knee or whatever on George Floyd's neck when he died, and because people were like wanted to know like what Dave Chappelle thought about this stuff, and so but people don't really. Nobody's like, what. This stuff in Israel and Palestine is happening. What does Kenny think about it? And to be honest with you, most of my opinions on like normal stuff like that are so fucking boring. Like my political opinions are like almost every opinion I have when it comes to that kind of stuff is like in the center, is like literally on both sides, is literally being like, yeah, both sides, like especially more
because you're an empathetic person. You can understand, you can put yourself in someone's shoes,
Especially more now than ever after going through Trump and Biden, because I was like the type of person that like I didn't vocally say it nearly as much, but I was like, dude, I even have a post that comes up that's like me on Facebook worrying about like, dude, we might like get into a nuclear conflict because Trump is so dumb. And all of this was like right after he got elected and everything. And then we went through it and be like, oh, it's just kind of the same. And then for it to be Biden now, and for him to be so, mentally gone and all of that, and just be like, look, that's how much none of it matters. And that's how much both sides suck. to the point of like they're probably going to run against each other again, and it doesn't matter who wins. Like, it does not matter at all. Like, in the perceived, like, it's just the perception of people on the far right and perception of people on the far left if the other person wins about how their life is going to be negatively impacted. And it's just like, I haven't seen negative, and the impacts are on obviously from both of them. Like, some of the economic stuff that you see is still stuff because of Obama. It's still stuff because of Trump and stuff because of Biden. So it's just like, it's all just a mess, and nobody gives a fuck what I think. Because comedically, it's like, that's not funny. It's more funny if you take a side, if you're like on one of the sides, because then you can go hard on the other side. Instead, I just find myself in the middle being like, yeah, you have good points, but do you look at this? And then, yeah, you have good points, but do you look at that? And
yeah, and like pro wrestling's similar, where it's like you want someone to love or hate you. You know what I mean? If you walk out and they really don't feel anything, then just like we were saying, like if they don't know who you are, why do they care about your opinion on a hot topic that's controversial? Where like you'd rather just come out and make them feel good and tell them who you are, and then now they got who you are. It's like maybe if you played that play 17 times and you got something and you're looking for something to do and whatever, and you got a long set, then sure, go ahead and try something.
When you have fans, as a comic, when I have like fans to the point like that are coming out, but then I'm gonna build my fans off of them listening to me tell dick jokes and all kinds of that kind of stuff instead. And I don't think that all of a sudden I'm gonna be like, well, now let's talk about this. Like, and it's like, I obviously have that, prerogative within my own art to do that if I like see fit, but it's just like, I don't know. I also just feel like when you come to a comedy show that you don't necessarily want, like it's an escape. It's like going to watch a movie. It's like going to watch wrestling, going to consume something that's not the same shit that we're looking at on social media or the same headaches and all that. So I feel like I don't even, it's not even something that I necessarily want to talk about anyway. I'd rather just talk about bullshit and be silly.
Yeah, and that's something I did want to say to just kind of circle back to that is that, like, our buddy Brad that we just talked about, great guy, and as I'm sure you remember, his daughter Tori had cancer, and miracle baby, but while he's dealing with that, he goes to a comedy show, and the comic makes a joke about cancer, and he said that like there was a second where his wife and he looked at each other like, oh, is this gonna make us lose our composure here or something?
Right.
We came out for a distraction, and here he is kind of almost like semi throwing it in our face, but he said that it was a funny joke and it made them laugh and it was therapeutic, and he was like, hey, if I could laugh at it, then
right.
like it opened up my eyes, just that like that's what comedy does. It's like I said, it's therapy, and so if you are going to do one of those jokes as a comic, then, obviously, hopefully it lands and it makes people laugh and it helps them therapeutically. But if you're just saying, oh, da, 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 and you just throw in the R word, or whatever, and just to get a shock laugh, well, that's what I'm not for. It's like when a girl's like, oh, I'm trying to get some guy to go down on me while I'm on period. It's like, oh, that's just gross and shocking. You know what I mean? It's like right. A guy saying that, like, oh, I'm trying to get some girl to go down on me while I'm taking a shit. It's like both of those things are gross, and like,
right.
And someone might laugh at like the thought like of like what the hell, but like it's not funny. Like it's not like a punchline. You know what I mean? There's no swerve there. Yeah,
like most recently, like I've been trying to do this bit about spanking, about like disciplinary, like really like the beginning of the bit now at this point is like me being like, do you think that disciplinary spanking or sexy spanking came first? Like, what do you think? And then it's like, that is actually funny. And then figuring out like, no matter which way it was, like, it's weird if it was like, this guy was like spanking his wife and he's like, who I need to try this out on? The kids. Like, you know what I mean? Or vice versa. And like that part is like, I would say most people find that funny, but the part that's been rough is me being like, people are against spanking. People like don't like it, but I think it's helpful. I think spanking really helps my parents. Like, I think my parents would be mad at me, and then they would yell at me, and then they would spank me, and then they would seem happy. Like, they would seem like in a better mood and everything. And then I start going through this, and I just keep losing people throughout it, basically being like, who am I to stand in the way of my parents' happiness? Like, the physical pain that I felt lasted way less than their good emotions afterwards. Like, and then people, like, I lose people, like, people just kind of, I've done it, I don't know, like maybe like 10 times, and they're not jumping on board. And then I'll be like, Like this past week, it was an audience where it was definitely like almost all older people, and I even said it. I was like, look, you guys are 50 years old. You guys got to get over this shit. Like, come on, this was a while ago. You guys were getting spanked. And then that middle part really fucks it up, and I might just have to cut it out. But I don't know. Like I don't want to cut that out, because then the ending it jumps back on board to where most people think it's funny, and that's being like I think we should have never stopped getting spanked. I think that's the weirdest part about getting spanked as a discipline, is like it stops one day. Like one day you just never get spanked again. And I think we should keep getting spanked. Like, imagine if you overdraw your bank account and then you get like a $34.99 fee, and the next time you go in the bank, one of the tellers bends you over their knee and spanks you. You know?
That'll learn you.
And so it's like the beginning and end of that joke are like things that everybody can identify with, kind of. And they're like, oh, that's funny. Which one did come first? And yeah, it would be funny if the teller spanked me. And then in that crowd of the 50-year-olds, you had the dad joke where a guy was like, depends on what the teller looks like, like a guy yelling out. But it's like that. It's a weird thing where we should all be able to laugh at that. It shouldn't just be like, well, I got spanked and he's bringing this up. I don't know. It's just
I did too.
I think people are more. It's just more of a common thing for even at a comedy show for people to process, like, is this okay? Is this okay at like every turn? And I think that's a mistake, and hopefully we get away from it more and more. But also it's again building a fan base. And if you have your own fans and fan base, that's why some comics they get to a point where they're not, I would say they're not super funny to the masses, but that's because they get a fan base and they really like hone in on that fan base and the things that their fans like. I mean, because there are comics that are considered like far right comics where they just say, like, they literally just say the most like stereotypical, like what you would expect to see from a Facebook page making fun of woke people, right? Like if you just saw a bunch of memes making fun of woke people, there's these, like, again, I'm not calling them this. That's just what they're called, like far right comics, and that's all they do. And to me, it's not that they're not funny. Like, it's not like it's not funny to make fun of woke people. It's just that it's just like the easiest. Like, I could do that if I wanted to. Like, I could easily just be like, well, I'm just going to go up and be like, there's smart people and then there's Democrats. Like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, that's just, I've seen like 20 different memes that say that. But I would say, yeah, that's a weird, I guess at least in wrestling, it's more of like, people need to be physically dependable. I feel like that's where you can kind of get mad at, like, I'm assuming at like your fellow wrestlers, like, because if they physically don't work right, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, if they like hurt you or actually wallop you in the head and you see a flash of light, like, that's always my bar. I'm like, because stuff happens, so I don't take it personally. Like, you get hit, you take a big boot and you actually get booted right in the face a little too hard. Yeah. You're like, oh, that kind of sucked, but I didn't see a flash of light. I'm not concussed. We're all good. But when someone just like giving you a regular, punch, or I'm letting you, I'm giving my body to you, I'm trusting you, and then you wallop me in the temple with a closed fist, and I see a flash of light, and my knees buckle. Like, well, then I'm gonna have something to say to you. Or what we do is we call it giving a receipt. So then now it's like sparring. You don't want to hit as hard as you want to get hit. So I'm gonna go, okay, we're hitting that hard today. I'm gonna give him back just what I felt, and then he'll go, oh, okay, I really don't want to take this myself, and then he'll still lighten up.
Have you found yourself in that position where a guy gives you a receipt?
No, there's one I really wish I would have given someone, but he was so protected. Like, so I was like, I'm not going to do it. I just took it. And he was in with like the promoter and all this. I'll say that. That's all I'll say. But other than that, more recently at like, it was like during the pandemic, there was no audience stuff. And so we were working with all kinds of different people from different areas, whoever was available and willing to work. And there's one guy who, he just wasn't working with me. And so I had to like use my amateur wrestling high school skills, and I was like, nope, I'm gonna hold you here until I'm like ready to let you go. Yeah. And he like kept trying to like go out, and I was like, nope. All right, now I'm gonna let you go. So that was like the closest I've come, because that's what I would do. I don't think I'd really punch someone, but I would just like use my amateur wrestling skills and like get him like, and maybe put him in a like legit shoot chokehold. Like, what are we doing? Are we working together? Or are we gonna fight? So that's not what we're here to do. If I wanted to fight someone for real, I'd go fight in a cage or go do jiu-jitsu, like with like. Of course. Really quick on that, I wanted to say, I remember you. I went for like a few months in my early 20s or whenever when you were doing it, and I think you were blue belt, whatever. And I was like, "Oh, hey, Kenny from high school, what's up, dude?" And so we rolled together, and I just remembered you from high school, and I don't recall you being like an athlete or whatever of any kinds, whatever, like playing any sports. And so
No.
I was just like, okay, cool. And then like you actually like choked me out with the gi, which I had never had happen before that I recall at that
Yeah.
time, because that was like new to me. I'm like, oh, okay, I see, how the gi's a weapon and all that, and you can use people's clothes against them, and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
it was interesting. It was fun. I remember I was like, okay, right on, Kenny, and yeah, so.
Yeah, that's my favorite. My favorite is like there's such a big push to no-gi now, and no-gi is very, very popular. I would even argue that like the most popular grapplers right now are like a handful of like the no-gi guys. But yeah, I don't really train.
That's probably because of MMA, I'm guessing.
Yeah, because there's just always the argument of like, oh, like the gi stuff doesn't transition to the streets, but it's like if you're a black belt, if you're a black belt in the gi, you're gonna be fine in the streets. Like you're gonna be I would say the only time, like let's say if I ended up in the streets fighting a guy who's equally as good or better than me at jiu-jitsu, and they train no gi all the time and I train gi, I guess there's a chance that in a street fight, like maybe they're a little bit more prepared. But it's like at that point, if you're fighting somebody who's trained on any level, you're already in a different kind of fight. Like that's already going to be a different kind of street fight. That's not really what even the self-defense of training jiu-jitsu, that's not technically what you train for. You don't train you're training to like defend yourself typically against people that don't know much. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And if you get yourself in a fight with somebody that knows a lot, I mean, it's like that's already a different thing.
Yeah, now it's a chess battle of human physicality versus just some guy trying to bum rush you, and then you going, okay, this is what I'm going to do now because I know jiu-jitsu when someone's running at me, how to like use that momentum against them and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have heard that like the gi doesn't translate as far as like, because like the gi is like a towel for those of you who don't know. It's really thick, and then it's tied on tight with this like belt. So it's like if you were to pull me, like trying to throw me by my tank top right now, this will probably just rip off. You know what I mean? Versus and then so like. I heard like clothing, unless like they're in a nice thick, shirt.
Yeah,
or
if they're
something.
like a jacket, like a lot of times it's like if you have like a jacket on, that's gonna act way more like a gi. But it's at this.
If you're in a t-shirt, I'm not sure that's gonna then be as useful. Possibly, I don't know.
I would say anybody that is truly at the level of like a purple belt and up, because it's white, blue, purple, brown, black, and when you get to purple is like when they're kind of like. That's like considered the upper belts, purple, brown, and black, and if you're legitimately a purple belt, it doesn't. If you train in the gi, it doesn't matter if you get your hands on somebody, especially because the amount of training that you do compared to something like other martial arts, like the taekwondos, the karates, and stuff like that, where you can kind of just go through the motions, and end up getting like a black belt. In jiu-jitsu, you just can't do that. So by the time you have like a purple belt, you can defend yourself, and you practice non-gi grips enough for like a self-defense situation.
Yeah, you're not going to be like stuck, what I mean? Like not being able to defend yourself just because of the gi thing. Like you're still going to be able to kick someone's ass who's like, just trying to bum rush you, some bar drunkard.
To me, the gi is that's the chess of jiu-jitsu. Like the gi is the chess, and a lot of people, I think, they train no-gi really early on, and so they feel like you get slippery after you start sweating. People can't really hold on to you as much as if I hold on to you. So then let's say you're rolling with higher belts and you're rolling in a gi and you're newer, and then you roll no-gi, you're going to feel better at no-gi. You're going to feel like you're better because they have a harder time getting grips on you, especially like I notice a lot of like strong guys, like guys that come in and like have lifted a lot of weights, obviously a lot of wrestlers, stuff like that. Like really strong guys tend to like love no-gi as well, because it's like somebody who's maybe not nearly as strong as them, but just know how to hold on to a gi, can get grips on them and like not let them move and everything. So it's like all relative and interesting. You said you watch Andrew Santino's special, or do you watch a lot of like comedy specials?
Yeah, I try to. That's like what I'll really mainly sit down when I have a moment to just sit and enjoy watching TV, which is rare. But I'll put on a comedy special because that's just going to take me out of the world I'm in and just make me happy and all that.
Yeah, I don't watch that much comedy. It's hard for. I mean, because I'm around it all the time, so it's like I see it live constantly.
Same with wrestling with me. I really don't watch a lot of it anymore.
And live comedy is way better. Like I can get a way more better assessment of the comedy by watching it live than watching the special. It's funny because I just watched like 10 minutes of 2 specials last night just because I was like really interested in just checking out how they were, and that was Matt Rife's special came out. Well, did it come out? Yeah, it came out yesterday. And I watched like 10 minutes of that. And then Ralph Barboza has a special called Cowabunga, and I watched 10 minutes of that. I liked Ralph Barboza's special. It was good. Like the jokes were good. I was like, okay, I can get on board with this. Matt Rife's is, I want to say that as a comic, I want to say this correctly. Not that, I don't know the guy. I'm probably not going to ever know the guy, but I'm not just trying to shit on him. Like, by the time you get a Netflix special, you're a funny comedian. I can't say that you're not fun. I can't be like, why does this guy have a Netflix special? He's not funny. I watched 10 minutes, and I watch it with my girlfriend because sometimes I try to just be like, am I a hater? Like, am I a hater? Am I just being a hater? And stuff. But I watched it, like my girlfriend was there working on shit, and she's like kind of watching it in the background too, and I turned it off after 10 minutes, and I was just like, that's not great, right? That's not very, very, and this guy is like the most popular fucking comic right now, the most popular person in comedy, a lot of off of crowd work, which I also probably compare with him because I do a lot of crowd work too. You know what I mean? And so it's like the special is his jokes, obviously. It's not crowd work, it's in a big theater and all that. But it's
I love how much of your show is crowd work, by the way. I love it.
It's not strong. Like the jokes aren't strong. I'm interested for you to, if you check it out, to see what you think about it. I'm interested to it's one of the specials I'm interested to ask like 100 people, all different people, comics, non-comics. Like I want my mom to watch it because my mom literally hit me up and was like, you know who you need to get in with is this guy, and she sends me like a clip of Matt Rife, and she's like, we're trying to get tickets to see him live. And we looked like all over the West Coast, and they're sold out everywhere. My mom wants to go see him live, and I'm interested for her to like watch the special, and then if she I don't know. It's not the fact that the special exists, it's the fact that this is the like one of, if you're like looking at like comedy having a few different people that are like the biggest right now. Another one, do you know Shane Gillis?
I've heard of him.
Shane Gillis, I'd highly recommend watching his Netflix special. It's really his is really, really good. But I'm interested. You got to check out Matt Rife.
I will.
Check out Matt. It's funny because I'm more interested for you to check out the special that I don't like than a really good. I'm like, this is going to be a very good special. Just watch this. I'm like, no. You got to watch this one that you might not like. First.
Okay, no, yeah, and that's interesting. It's interesting for me too because there are some comedians that I'm like, my buddy and I talk about this. Like, I didn't hear one like setup punchline joke, and not that every comedian needs to have that because but like again, I love that how much of your show is crowd work. Ian Baggs, a guy that I like that does a lot of like his whole show is pretty much riffing with the crowd, so I love that shit because it feels more intimate, real, and versus just like kids, I have them, and I'm like, I don't have kids, so your bill better be damn funny, you know what I mean? If you're just sitting here talking about like other parents are relatable, yeah, us too, like cool, but like I don't. Like, it better be funny, is all I'm saying, because I don't care to hear people talk about their kids. I'm sorry, and just be honest. You know what I mean? Even my friends, I'm just like, how are your kids doing? Great, cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy that you guys are happy and having a great life, but like, I don't know. Kids aren't part of my life plan, so I'm like, all right, man, like, your kid better have done some funny ass shit, because if it's not funny, then you're just like telling. This is just you talking to like your friends, you know what I mean?
Kids are like I should do this as a bit or try it at some point. But kids are like I feel like kids are the plug into the Matrix. Like kids are what plug you into that little pod in the Matrix, because everybody that has a kid, all that, like, it's literally like they kind of just fall in line and they think a certain way. They even the way they just like the way their mind works towards like all children, like they almost become a parent of all children. Like if I see a kid doing something like wrong in public, I'm like, oh shit, like okay. Like, and then just walk away. But like, if someone has children, it's like they're way more likely to be like, well, I've got to parent these children too. You know what I mean? If they see kids out doing
Shouldn't do that.
yeah, like seeing kids doing shit wrong, it's fucking wild.
They also parent adults too. You ever notice that, man? I can't. I'm like, dude, like you're not my dad, bro.
Yeah.
Like I was walking to WrestleMania with my friends. We're like, got some great seats, and this guy's like, he goes like this to my friend and stops him from walking. So his like fan, and this is like a big, like 10-foot wide hallway. I was like, bro, I almost like ducked under his shit because I'm like, dude, just some guy in a sweaty trucker hat, you know, with his flannel on. I'm like, great, bro, like Mr. like blue collar family man, great, that's cool for you. Do that, dude, but don't come out here like to other men like, hey, you know, like I'm like we were just trying to walk. Don't block me from walking. You know what I mean? Like you're not my father. Yeah, there's some shit like that where like, okay, like I think they take it too far. It gets to their heads, really. You know what I mean? And that's why I noticed some of my friends when they get kids. We beached for a minute and we went our separate ways because it was like you couldn't be told anything that you're less than perfect because you're the man of the house, yada yada.
Yeah.
You know, you're and I get it.
It's kind of like teachers. The teachers are the same way, especially like looking back after you're an adult and thinking back on teachers and being like, oh, you just have authority over kids, but it's not even any real authority.
You're just like putting it out on the table because you can, you know, with kids who can't do anything,
100%.
You know what I mean? And then you're going to spin it like, oh, he's being disruptive in class, and now I'm going to be in trouble with my mom and dad because I talked back to you, so I just got to shut up. Yeah. You know, there's teachers that, and I went to a private school, man, that's just a whole nother level. Like you talk about spanking, they were allowed to spank us my principal was allowed to spank me. He brought this big, thick, like 1.5 inch paddle with holes in it that's like a foot, like a square foot. And he's like, oh, but you're in 3rd grade. It said K through 2 on it. And he goes, if I see you here one more time with this bigger paddle, like an extra 2 inches thick, a bigger hole, like, oh, like this thing's going to destroy me. I'm going to be hamburger meat down there.
I in Texas before I moved to California in elementary school, in the public elementary school in Texas, they could ask they would like give your parent the option, like, do you want us to spank your kid? And I got spanked once by the principal.
Really?
Yeah, and it was like a leather strap. It wasn't a belt. It was like a leather strap, but it was like thick. It was very thick. And I just remember the principal being like, do you get spanked at home? And I'm like, yeah. You're like, look, I don't know how it works at home, but here it's like, you're gonna get spanked with this, and you're gonna get 3 licks.
Were your pants on or off?
Off or on. And that was it. Yeah, that was it. It was like over the pants. And it's like, okay. I'm like, this is easy. Like, pants on.
Nice jeans on today. We're good.
3 hits. I think I'm good to go. Dude.
I got so used to them. I used to have to like fake like cry or whatever. One time I was laughing like, you know.
Yeah.
I just think every day because you remember you would get my teacher did this. If you were talking, you pulled a ticket, or whatever. And if you had like 3 in that day, you're screwed. You know what I mean? 5 green. For the week, you're done.
It would start with green.
Yep.
Because we had a daily thing where it would be everybody would have a green card, and then it would be yellow, orange, and then red, and then you had to take your card home and give it to your parents. So it's like, oh, green. I got a green card. I got a green card.
Mom, red today.
And then red. You went to the principal's office. No matter what. So if it was literally just like you wouldn't stop talking, that would be you'd literally get a red card from not talking, or you could like slap a kid across the face and then you'd go from green. You'd like go from green to red. Like thinking about it, it's like this system made no sense. The system was just up to the teacher, which is wild. But speaking of all of this school stuff, next summer we have our 20-year high school reunion.
Yes.
Which is wild. They reached out to me.
We look great, don't we? Though,
yeah,
you know,
doesn't look like we're 37.
No, not at all. Like you've aged phenomenally, man.
You have too, man.
Thanks.
They actually
sunscreen.
They hit me up and asked me to MC the
you should
event. So I plan on doing that. That'll be I like agree to do these things like that, or I'll have like it's like a comedy show for our jujitsu like Christmas party, and then I like get to it and I think about like the more I think about it, the more I'm like it also makes no sense for me to MC like because like they're having me MC it because I'm a comedian, but like as a comedian I just talk a bunch of shit, so it's like I don't know, but I mean I can talk on a mic for fucking ever if I need to, so it's like it's not too big of a deal. It'll be interesting. I think they said like I'm gonna go look like at some point in the next couple months, like go look at the venue or whatever. But it'll be like next July, which I didn't go to the 10-year high school reunion.
Are you chatting with Ramoni?
Yeah,
she's the best. Love you, Ramoni.
Yeah, she's awesome. still being the president.
Yes, I voted for her.
even 20 years later.
Right,
But
she's awesome.
We'll see how that all pans out. Should be a fun time. Should be interesting. I feel like 10 years isn't enough. I didn't go to the 10-year.
Me neither. I just got together with a couple buddies to went to a bar, had some few drinks,
And then we are also like the social media became popular.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Legitimately.
Yes.
Like a year or two after we were out of high school. So we like didn't see the people from our high school for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden we started being like MySpace friends. And then in like 2007, that's when the masses started getting on Facebook, and so then we all became Facebook friends, and then Instagram in 2011, and we've all like kind of at least the people that you knew, you kind of have kept up with them. So it wasn't.
Exactly.
It wasn't like, and I don't think very many people had that much going on 10 years.
Yeah. Like
at 10 years, but people have more shit going on at 20 years. More things have happened. So I think it'll be a lot more interesting.
Yeah. Like a lot more people have kids now. Like people are like set in different careers. Like some people we're all still trying to, find our way in life and whatnot.
Yeah.
Some people, did the right after college route. And even then they're maybe still, interning their jobs. So like they're, everyone was still like, in that, finding life stage, and now everyone's kind of settled down a little more. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
People
interesting to see everybody.
Yeah, I don't have any expectations other than just to hope to smile and see some faces that I'm like, oh, that'll be great. That I haven't seen in a while, that I do see on Facebook, and I know that's what I liked about it too, about Facebook, is like we're current, and like I didn't feel the need to go see all these people because I chatted with them on Facebook, whatever, and I know what's going on. So I do like that aspect of it. It's like it is a social aspect that I like about the healthy thing about social media. I feel like is you get to feel in contact with people that me and you, for example, like this probably wouldn't have happened without social media. I did like that we would run into each other at open mic nights. I would see this guy doing open mic nights, and then now I see him here headline the Rec Room, and so I just wanted to put you over on that front, man. And I was just having fun doing music or whatever, and I was like, oh, my buddy Kenny, he's doing comedy, cool. Oh, he's really good.
See me over at what was it, Cochino's comedy night over in Starting Gate. That was like pre-pandemic. He has it,
and that was like my first time seeing you because I know you were doing shows, but like you were just honing your craft, at the open mics, trying new material. So that's where I kind of would run into you. And then I saw you at a comedy show at Cochino. What's up, Cochino Comedy, and I was like, wow, he's on the circuit. Like, I'm at, and I knew that those comedies, the comedians he brings there are like professionals, touring comedians, and all that stuff. It's not an open mic night kind of a thing.
Yeah, everybody goes there. He doesn't like me that much because I do crowd work. He doesn't like he doesn't really. I mean, because he's more old school.
Okay.
Where he'll try to tell the comics, don't talk to my crowd, is what he always says. But he does crowd work. It's funny because he does crowd work himself. Yeah, he does
it though. That's funny. Maybe that's why. It's like, don't take my bit or something. I don't know.
You used to be able to be like that. Now it's too harder to do that kind of shit. Like it's kind of opened up, and it's not that much like that anymore. But what do you have anything to promote before we end it?
Just I wrestle at United Wrestling Network. They have like some network deals and syndication. I don't know what network they'll be on next, but I just worked the local circuit. I'm the party captain on Instagram, and I'm not on my Twitter because I don't like that. It's too negative. Like that's what I don't like about social media. It's so impersonal. I feel like I'm just watching a bunch of people's ads and retweets. I'm like, I don't care about this.
I've never been a Twitter or X guy or whatever.
Yeah,
I have one, but I rarely ever use it. I'm more Instagram, Facebook. To be honest with you, of all things, Facebook works the best for me, which most people hate Facebook, but it's like that's where I get the most like real fans and people trying to like actually come see me do comedy. So
yeah, I like
forever.
I feel like Facebook has the most actual connection, you know, and then IG's secondary, and then Twitter's like far the most impersonal.
I think it's because the people that actually have money are on Facebook. The people that have money that actually go do things are cruising Facebook, and then Instagram's more just an aesthetics based thing. You can look cool on there. For me, you could go to my website, heykenny.com. I'll be in Tulsa at the end of the year for New Year's Eve. Then January 5th, I'll be at Aguas Caliente Casino in Palm Springs. And then the rest of 2024, I'll be going everywhere: Little Rock, Philly, DC, Boston, Arizona. So you can find it all there, or look me up on Instagram. Hey Kenny, it's Kenny. But thanks for doing the podcast, dude. It was a lot of fun.
Man.
We'll have to definitely. I'm gonna be like scheduling these days out to like get them together. So I have to have you come back and follow up and everything.
Yeah, this is fun, man. Hell yeah.